As I've mentioned before, Ministry in the Workplace Sunday is one of my favorite Sundays because it's all about where the rubber hits the road. And yes, we have beautiful services, but if our faith in Jesus Christ does nothing to shape our lives throughout the week, does nothing to affect our decisions, does nothing to dictate our actions, then of what value is it? So this morning, this Labor Day weekend, we get a chance to hear from two of our congregants, from Jim Ryan and from Karen Pardue, and they will tell you how they respond to God's call on an everyday basis.
Good morning. A few weeks ago, when I was speaking on my journey of faith, I said that I went in to be a guidance counselor, wanted to be one, and I was one and a department head for my whole career after teaching a few years with coaching and other activities thrown into it, all because of one teacher who took the time to recognize that the hunk of wood sitting in a chair who wasn't doing much and was a clown most of the time had more than was exhibited. And I credit that person, Sister Rosenda Gill, with inspiring me to want to give back, to work with high school students and to try to motivate some of them and to do the same thing that was done for me. And anyone in a helping profession has a distinct advantage when it comes to taking their Christianity to the workplace. Most of us who are Christians, and there are many, will look at, first of all, the fruits of the Spirit in Galatians 5:22. And working with high school people, high school students, is there any doubt that you need to love them? You need to have patience, and you need to be kind. And it is something because they are ever-changing, they're finding themselves, their brains don't, especially the males, don't function the way a normal brain should function. I know from experience. The executive function, they call it, controls our putting together our abilities and our behavior. And adolescent males in particular are lacking that until they're a little older. And when we go in and we work with these people, it's very easy to love and be kind, even with the ones that cause us a little aggravation. And I've always tried to do that. And in Titus 3:3, there's an instruction that we show courtesy to all people, not just Christians, to everyone. And I had two examples in my career, one in the very beginning and one near the end, of people who the simplest things can mean something to them. I stand outside my English class, and there was a boy who went into the class across the way. I knew he had problems. And I would greet my own students, but I always greeted him as well as other people. And he went and told the guidance counselor that I was the only adult in the building that ever talked to him. You don't realize the impact you have with a simple hello, a handshake, a smile. Near the end of my career, I was a class advisor for a class, and on our last function, the students signed yearbooks. And when I got home and I was reading them, one of the young men who was graduating, with whom I had few contacts, but some, and there were a few problems with him, I wrote down, "Thank you." This is hard for me. "You are the only adult in the school that treated me like a person." And that broke my heart, just to think of someone going through school and no one seemed, in his opinion, I'm sure it's not true, but he felt that way going through school. As a Christian, and when the people know you're a Christian, you have certain opportunities to talk to students. I always had in my office a Bible. In public school, yes, you can have a Bible in your office. I had all my books facing this way, and my Bible was on the same shelf that most of the kids were interested in that book, going the other way. Above the bookcase, I always kept the Serenity Prayer. I didn't realize when I put it up, it was the AA prayer. But it made so much sense to me, and when working with young people, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. And through that, those two things, people would say, oh, are you a Christian? Or they'd say, oh, are you a member of AA? And we'd start some very interesting conversations. I wasn't, but it was helpful. And when the other people in this school realize you're a Christian, they may come to you for advice. I remember one case when I was in Needham and I was head of the department over there. It was during the late 60s, early 70s, and all these groups were trying to come into schools, and they were trying to proselytize, and they were just reaching out, cults, everything. And the principal said to me in the very beginning when he first heard of this one group, are they legitimate, Jim? It was Campus Crusade for Christ. And I said, yes. I said, they're really legitimate. They're solid. You don't have to worry about them. They invited them into social studies classes. They allowed them to be around the campus. And it worked very well. In fact, many students came to accept Jesus as Savior. And one of them, who was saved through that program, had nothing to do with me, was a minister who Burl and Jerry served under, and he was the minister that married our son. And you just don't know the influence of people and the young when they're choosing things. I can think of one other incident that when you're working with people, you have to have standards. And as a Christian, we must have standards. And when you're working, you set them high. And you expect people to act well. At our school, the last school I was in, Weston, there was always a senior variety show. And it was an opportunity for the seniors to perform, to put on skits, and very frequently they tried to put in things that were totally inappropriate, were aimed at hostile toward teachers, toward administrators, and to control that whole class was difficult. So we were practicing, and they tried to put in a skit that was based on some raunchy late-night dating show. I just sat them all down. I said, you can't do this. Your parents are here, your younger brothers and sisters are here, your grandparents are here. This is what you want to leave them with. You can't do this sort of thing. And we had a discussion, and of course the future lawyers were saying, okay, it's against our rights, you can't stop us, freedom of speech. I said, oh yeah, I'm shutting the lights off and pulling the curtain on you. Anyway, one of the people came to the conclusion that they have been desensitized by the media. And I thought that was brilliant. And it is true. They see everything, they think it's all right. So two of them came up to me, I was trying to tell them about humor. And they said, we want to do a poem. I said, oh. Every year they do a poem and they go after administrators of the school or someone. No, we really want to do a poem. So I said, and these were good guys. I said, okay, this will be funny. And they read Robert Frost's poem, Going Through the Woods on a Winter Evening. And the place loved it, so that you can influence people and bring your Christian values. And it's not a difficult thing, especially if you're in a helping profession. Thank you.
And Karen.
Good morning, everyone. I want to first start by thanking Jim for his words and his humor and his narrative. I know he's given us all something important to think about. I'm going to change gears a little bit and talk about how my faith is evident in my workplace. I'm an academic dean at the University of New England. And specifically, I work in the College of Health Professions, where we educate students in health provider care, such as nursing, dental hygiene, physical therapy, just to name a few. People always ask me, well, what specifically does an academic dean do? And I like to think of my role as helping to promote success of the academic enterprise of our institution. So in that respect, I work with students a lot as they embark on their journey, and I try to facilitate that they're going to be successful with their coursework and obtain their degrees. I work with program directors because they are enacting curriculum and trying to make sure our programs are going to unfold. And I also work with faculty to try to promote excellence in teaching and in research and in service. So I really see my role as a facilitator and somebody who just helps support the entire enterprise of the university. When Reverend Merriam asked me at the door a few weeks ago to speak about ministry in the workplace, I initially didn't know exactly what I was going to say. Universities right now, I would say the postmodern era has made them very secular places, and Christianity and any form of organized religion is not abundantly evident. However, this really gave me an opportunity to think about, well, what do I do as a Christian and to support the university and to live out my values and beliefs? So I want to share with you 3 things that have come to me from this opportunity from contemplation, and that includes discovery of passion and purpose, dealing with disappointment and failure, and providing service to others. With respect to passion and purpose, I believe that God has blessed each one of us with unique talents and abilities. Developing an awareness as to our special gifts and talents is abundantly evident in the work that we do at the university. The Bible certainly instructs us that whatever we do, we should engage with all of our heart and all of our passion. Working in a college, particularly with undergraduates, it's not unusual to find a student who feels floundering or aimless. U.S. World and News Reports tells us that undergraduate students these days change their major 2.1 times. It takes them a while to find themselves. Sometimes they come to the university with a major because it looked great on television, or because their parents told them that would be a good major. But to successfully study in my college in the health professions, students have to love math and science. They have to get excited about biochemistry and nutrition and physiology, and not all students do that. So when students are taking coursework and they suddenly feel dejected and upset, they're not only struggling personally, but they feel like failures because everybody around them is excited with this study. And I often hear them say, "I feel like a fish out of water." I've heard that expression over the last 15 years as I've worked in this role, and I found a very interesting interpretation many years ago by Shanna Shute about the fish out of water. I believe it relates to God's blessing addressing our unique talents and our unique abilities. And so I share this story with students quite frequently, and it goes like this. A young man observes 3 fish who are gliding effortlessly and gracefully in a pond of water. Their motion is fluid and elegant. The fish are clearly vibrant and alive. The young man then reaches down and scoops the fish out and places them on the bank. The bank has a beautiful, lush, green moss grass patch. The fish initially lay there in this beautiful grass, motionless, and then they begin to flop around and look awkward and uncoordinated. The grass is dense and healthy, and the young man is confused by the reaction of the fish. He says, little fish, why are you flopping around? Don't be sad, this is beautiful grass. Try this, you're really gonna like it." But with the passage of time, the fish become less and less active. They look weary and dispassionate. A fisherman happens by and says, "Why are these fish on this patch of grass? They cannot be all they were created to be. They need to be in the water." Surprised, the young man replaces the fish back into the water, and after a few seconds of sputtering and flopping about, they once again begin to swim in their smooth, spirited way. The lesson of the story is that no matter how hard the fish tried, they could not prosper in the grass. even though the grass was beautiful and lush and healthy. Even if they tried to convince themselves that they like grass, they would not flourish there because they were created for another purpose. I think our lives are something like that, each of us blessed with a distinct talent and gift. My work at the university gives me opportunities to sit with students and help them identify their own passion and interests and return them to sparkling pools where they can live a full life. A second example addresses disappointment and failure. It's not surprising that inherent in the university, such experiences happen. A student fails a course. An instructor is disappointed with their course evaluations. A researcher learns that the grant he worked hours on was not funded. A faculty member's manuscript is rejected. I need to go no further than right here, the Church on the Cape, to find guidance and inspiration to teach me ways to support people with disappointment and failure. I'm really learning that this is part of everyday life, that it's probably part of the human experience. But broken dreams also present new opportunities. Reverend Miriam eloquently framed this in August when she talked to us about the story Welcome to Holland. Holland was not where the parents wanted to go, but when they paused and reflected, they saw the beauty of the tulips and the windmills, and they realized there were possibilities and joys to discover within what they had been given. God teaches us that through the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus, that new beginnings emerge out of the death of something, which inspires me to keep my faith as a steady companion as we sit with people who experience failure and disappointment. A final example of my faith is service to others. The commitment to care for each other is an anchoring tenet of Christian life. In a somewhat parallel way, universities have a mission to advance education, scholarship, and research through integrated learning experiences. In our health profession college, we really embrace this idea of service and service learning. Service learning is a teaching learning strategy that integrates meaningful community service with the opportunities for students and staff and faculty to reflect and self-appraise as to what are we doing about civic responsibility and giving back to each other. We strive to teach our students that we are indeed privileged to be part of higher education, that not everyone in society has this same opportunity. As well-educated individuals, we have a responsibility to give back to our communities and to care for each other in meaningful ways. To that end, the faculty, staff, and students in our college are active in numerous activities such as serving meals at the Preble Street Resource Center, spending evenings at the nurse-led clinic at the Oxford Street Shelter for Men in Portland, to be involved in after-school reading activities in the Portland elementary schools, and our twice-a-week outreach effort that we have in Ghana, Africa. We actively engage our students in the Christian calling of caring for and about each other. In closing, working in higher ed presents numerous opportunities for new beginnings. This past week, on Wednesday, we opened the new school year. And that's always an exciting time because it's a chance to turn the page, wipe the slate clean, and begin anew. It reminds me a little bit of like New Year's Eve and New Year's Day where you get to make resolutions. So in education, you get to do this many times a year. I enjoy that because there's this constant rhythm of change and the opportunity for growth and a fresh start. My faith is like that, as I believe God welcomes us each day with the promise and possibility of new beginnings. As we face the future, we don't know what the days or months will bring us, but we know our journey will be deeper and richer with God and faith as our companion. Thank you very much.